Hello, 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 hello. Hello, everybody. I see that most seats are filled and some people will have to stand up behind. Can everybody hear me well? Yes? Okay. So, guys, I discovered something a few weeks ago, and it's about my mom. I discovered that my mom has Snapchat. I don't even have Snapchat anymore, and I'm in the business. And the reason why my mom has Snapchat is because she wants to be in contact with my kids. And she's not alone. Yeah? Guys, this is a societal trend. Yeah? If you look at the biggest penetration increase of Facebook, it's amongst plus 65-year-olds. Yeah? 2018 is the first year that you have more seniors having a smartphone than a regular cell phone. So the time that digital marketing or doing marketing in a digital world, because I think digital marketing is a stupid thing to say because it's marketing. Yeah? Doing marketing in a digital world is not by far not anymore a millennial thing. It's in total society. So, and then you have this evolution from TV screen consumption to mobile screen consumption. So the question becomes, how do I build my brand if the traditional TV spot was one of my key media to basically inspire on my brand? So how do I build my brand on this mobile thing? And that's when you have this evolution where storytelling comes in balance with user experience. Now, how to build your brand in that context? Well, KBC can tell you a lot about that. Proximus can tell you a lot about that. And D'Ieteren can tell you a lot about that. So I'm very happy to have the three of them on stage. So let's first listen to Karin van Hoeken, who is General Manager of Digital Transformation at Proximus. And basically KBC wants to be, at Proximus, lapsus. Who is, that's Geert, he's coming afterwards. Who is, so to be very clear, Karin van Hoeken, who is General Manager of Digital Transformation at KBC. And KBC wants to be in the pocket of the consumer, which is a weird thing to say if you're a bank. So Karin van Hoeken, the floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, I will tell you a little bit how we see the future and how we're going from a financial app to your personal favorite assistant. Who am I? I was already introduced, active already, working 20 years for KBC, but especially since 2013 working on our digital transformation, because at that time, if anybody came by, they always said the same: KBC is lagging. You have to know we were rescued 3 times by the government, so in terms of mindset, that's where we are. What I want to tell you today is where are we standing and how do we look at it? And I will give you 3 tips because there is so many to tell. I can be here a whole day, but let's focus on 3 tips. So I told you in 2013, 3 times rescues, confidence of the KBC colleagues nowhere. And if they came by, this is a report of Finalta, that's the benchmark company of McKinsey. And you see there are still, in terms of innovation, there are 3 graphs on it. The blue one is Belgium average. The dark blue one is digital leaders worldwide. And the orange is KBC. So in terms of innovation, we have really beaten the path. You see there are still on other domains possibilities to grow, but we are very proud that we are here and winning lots of awards, also from Google Best Brands, and a lot to talk about. But what is our main basic mindset? I told you we started in 2013 in the mindset that it was almost over. So we really, even today, if we are winning a lots of awards, this is the mindset. Extinction is the rule, survival is the exception. So all right, don't think that we will be there. So he told already, if you look at your smartphone, it's already a camera, your agenda, your email, I think it's not so far away that you will not have anymore a wallet. So everything can be placed in your mobile phone, and of course, KBC is crucial also for that. What we see in terms of customers, because there are signals, a lot of customers are not yet digital. If you see, it's a little bit linked to your mom. What's the fast growing segment? Is this one, 55 plus, but you see even at 65, very strong growth, and even in 80 plus, we see nice growth in digital. So consumers are finding the way how they work. We introduced last year non-financial services. You can buy a bus, train ticket, bicycle, parking. You can do a lot of non-financial stuff in your mobile. Why we did it? Because if you want to be relevant, you need to be basic, humble, and not complex products, but the things that your customers are doing every day. So we have already more than, in 1 year, 174,000 users that are doing more than 200,000 transactions a day. So we are proud having the app and bank of the year, having constantly very good app rating score as well on iOS and Android. And here you see the most popular one, the bus, parking, street parking above, NMBS, but also QPark, I will tell about it, Sodexo, PayPal, and lots more. All the relevant things that you need to do on a regular basis. So now, the 3 tips. The first one, be creative in bank insurance. Technology is very well, but if the film is not working, you will need to do it with my voiceover. What we learned about investments, and what you think about investments. Anybody's suggestion?
Boring.
Boring. Complex. You need to have a lot of money for it. It's not for me. I need to have to make an appointment. I need to listening to boring people. So that was a little bit, if you asked our customers how they look at investments, the way they look at it. So we thought, all right, and if you know, that's maybe a good tip, in investments, nobody beats the market. The best thing is to invest in a regular base. Whatever market you're in, whatever guru you will find, they will not beat the market. So regular things is important. So we thought, okay, let's make something as simple that anybody can invest. So what we did, imagine you're gonna buy here, I don't think you need to buy it, but imagine you need to buy a coffee or something, and it's 4.55 euro. What we're gonna do, we're gonna round it up to 5 euro and put that difference in your investment plan. And it's really easy to activate. You go to your mobile, 2 clicks, activate the round to euro, or beleggen met je wisselgeld, like we say it in Dutch, and you're in. It's very funny because you can see after a month or 2 months, what am I spending? So even if you go shopping a whole day, you can say you invested in the things. That's really easy. There is a really funny movie, you have to look it up, how with spare money, not in the washing machine and things like that, how you can create something funny, easy, mobile for everybody with investing in your money. And even in KBC, when I first defended the case, they were laughing with me because they said, Karen, do you know how many assets under management we have? And do you know with how many final small numbers it will go up? You will never go there. But okay, let's do her. Sometimes she has a creative idea. It's maybe something like that. And then we launched and we immediately see that consumers learn something, and now it's a big success. So you see, by being creative and think out of the box, you can move something. The second tip is, I can say, maybe there are colleagues of ING, Belfius or BNP in the room, I can say, you're my competitors. But I'm doubting. Imagine that sometimes a Google or a Facebook is doing something. Who is the competitor of KBC? And what the hell in these days, even we are trained, our CEO, he wrote his strategy himself, and he said, all right, I want managers and people that can do their own strategy. So in terms of consulting, it's difficult to work with KBC in terms of transformation. We didn't spend anything above 25,000 euro last year. But that doesn't mean that you need the mindset of cooperation. I give some examples. It's me. Who has it's me? All right, lots of fans here. That's the right public. But you have to convince your friends, because only 18% of the Belgians are using It's Me. Very easy, digital identity. You can log in on the different banks, on the telco, on all kind of companies. You can log in, confirm your identity, sign transactions. Easy way to go, interbank cooperation. A lot of studies are also saying that in Belgium, like neobanks like Revolut and N26 are flying less because of interbank cooperation, things like It's Me, and because the players are acting. We are not waiting there and crying and say, oh, others are coming. We are acting. But it cannot be only with It's Me, there is also Payconic. Maybe there are also Payconic fans in the room. Yeah, that's quite nice. So we integrated Payconic. We integrated Payconic in the mobile. So now you don't even the app. You can do it integrated in the KBC mobile to pay in the shop, to make it possible to do easy payments with your mobile phone. It's taking time because we learn on average changing behavior in payments. It takes on average 7 years. So customers are so used by banking cards and stuff like that. Even log in with what we call the card reader or a bakje. People are trained that it's safe. So it's now difficult sometimes to change their minds. So that's important. But work together. But it's not only with big banks or corporations or stuff like that. You can also work together with small companies. Because I didn't tell anything about our strategy, but it's quite easy. We have 4 B's. The first one is being personal and relevant. The second one is the Be All-in-One app. It's being broadening. I give some examples. The third one, what do you do if you think you're personal and relevant and you offer a lot of services that we think are relevant? And if the customers even then don't come to you, what are we gonna do? That's what we call be everywhere. Be then where the business is. And the fourth one is develop or buy in some new business. This is an example of be everywhere. Bullswap, it's a company renting and selling all kind of, you see it here, the yellow type machines. I'm not a technical expert, but we are helping them on their platform to offer leasing and financing to customers. So it's not on the KBC mobile, it's not on our platform, it's on their platform, and our banking service is plugged in their system via open APIs and open banking. It's small steps, but you can do also there in cooperation some nice things. PSD2, it's live, but it's not yet rocket science, but the idea after it is that anybody, if you as a customer give permission, anybody can look at your account. If you say, check my account, or initiate a payment. So you have to know, anybody an idea of our logins in the mobile? Our customers log in on average 1 time a day. 1.1 million customers that log in on average 1 time a day. Do you know what the top tasks are? Any idea? Checking balance. Second one? Payment. So more than 80% of the top tasks is these things. These 2 things are broken open by legislation because anybody in this platform that has the agreement of the customer can do the checking balance and the payment initiation. I don't know, if you have a shop or whatever and you know that 80% of your business is at risk, what are you gonna do? Do you gonna sit there and cry and say, you're eating my business? Please, Europe, do something about it. or you can think out of the box and see it as an opportunity. What are the most popular apps on your app phone on average? Waze, yeah, it's not in the top 3. Social, yes. Weather. And on the 3rd place, banking. Yeah.
Had to be there.
Yeah. So you see social media, weather, it's very funny I think that weather is so popular. And of course banking. So that means with 1.1 million customers log in every day, you're well positioned to being relevant and to add services. So what we did, first thing, you can add other banking accounts and saving accounts of other banks, because a lot of customers, I think, not all, but I think more of the half of our customers are having also accounts with other banks. So you can add them now, also in the mobile, and you can use that as a single point of contact to do the transfers and to check what's the balance. That's one thing, to make sure, defend the basic stuff we do. And then, we started the journey with the bus and the parking, and now in terms of mobility, I think you have almost everything, and there are still some fancy one coming for next year. This is one of my favorites. And why? Because I think it's very funny, and I think if it would be in a relation also possible, it would be great. Imagine that you're less visible and they love you more. How great would that be? So how is it working, the Q Park? What do? You link one time your license plate in your mobile. You say, this is my license plate, this is the account, I want to do it. Then what you're going to do, in every Q Park in the country, you enter, and then it's really funny, something like opening the stuff, it becomes exciting, because you enter and you think, will it happen? You do nothing, you don't need to take a ticket, it will open. When you enter, when you exit, you don't need to look for that ticket, you don't need to see how to pay. You step in your car, you drive out the parking, and it's paid. And you get a push notification on what is paid. So that is what I call ultimate laziness, even better than the bus, because you don't need to buy a ticket. And sometimes people are saying, but that's not so paying a ticket. This is a real photo of the 2nd of November, taken in Hasselt, sent to a colleague, and this was the paying queue. So if you then can use the parking stuff, I think you would be really, really happy to save some time and to have to spend things on other things than paying your parking. Who want to spend time on that? So that's the idea. How can we create ultimate laziness, be your assistant, without being there, hi, it's me, can I help you? That's, I think, some great thing. What we also learned in Belgium, that people like reductions or a cashback. So what we tested with the first one in February, deals. So you can have a cashback. It's now live since this week. There are around 30 deals in the mobile. And how does it work? You said, I want to activate deals, because if you activate it, you allow us to be personal and to look at what's relevant for you. The only thing you do, you pay with a KBC payment, debit, credit card, or with Payconic. And at the end of the month, you get the cashbacks on your account as easy. And there will always new deals. So now, if somebody say that the account of KBC cost you money, it's changed around. Free is not longer the paradigma. Earning money with your account, it's now the new paradigma. So we try to make some things easy. Don't have the reduction stuff. Don't go to the winkel and to say, oh, I forgot the voucher. It's all over. It's easier. You can hear the screens activated. Like this is one of AVV. But also imagine that you are not happy and you want to leave. Also that we make easy. There are a lot of national but also small local players. We are active in a lot of communities in Belgium. It can be done with local deals as well. We will add it also possible for prospects, and we work together with Trooper. That's a company helping all kind of societies to make them fundy and to do digital spaghetti stuff. We will allow you next year to give your cashback to, for example, the MUCO or cancer or whatever the scouts you want to support. It's also playing a role in society. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you, what we learned as well is it's very difficult if I say that the KBC Mobile is better than something else, because it's not like a car, it's not like a drink. You cannot taste it, you only feel it when you use it. But that's very difficult because the first step is try to use it. So what we're going to do then? I compare now the banking relation, I compare a lot with dating. A bank relation, it's like living together, because you need to open an account and it's a lot of hassle. It's already a big step to say, all right, we're gonna live together. Now the good news is, you can go on the pub and have a drink. And do you know what? If you go a lot on the pub, I still can ask the question, do you want to live together? So what we did, if you now enter the KBC Mobile, you download it, there are two options. First, imagine you are already a KBC customer and not digital. You can become digital. You can open an account in 5 minutes, but if you say that's the living together, imagine that you say, no, I come only for the pub. It's possible. Then you say you don't open an account. What I need to know is your telephone number and your email, and that's it, and your life. What are you going to do then? You can test the train, the NMBS, Brussels airport, buy a lounge ticket or a fast lane ticket if you're late on the airport, and make the experience happy. To see, to feel how is it, and then maybe if you're happy, we can start a kind of a step further in our relation. So the only thing I can say, come on and try. Thank you.
Wow. I think this is pretty impressive in the sense that it's clear that user experience is basically becoming your marketing here and how you build your brand, and there are already quite some studies that show the correlation between user experience and brand loyalty. Now what KBC and Karen, the whole team is doing here, is also starting to use it as an acquisition engine. So I think that's amazing. Now if you want to get there as a marketeer, you will need to do the right digital transformation. Now then the question is, digital transformation is kind of this fashionable thing, everybody's talking about it and then we do it, but what should be your guiding star to do it? How do you make sure that your digital transformation is meaningful for your consumer? And if there's one person and one company that's also quite experienced in that, it's Geert Keltermans and Proximus. He has been working on that for months and years. So welcome Geert, and thank you for sharing us your experience on digital transformation.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks for the introduction. Yeah, indeed, we have been engaging in. Oh, that's up. We have been engaging in a digital transformation for quite some time now. I think almost 5 years. And what is important to know is that actually, as a company, we have transformed over time. But what we do see is that transformation is going faster and faster. And you all know the RTT. From the old days. In the meantime, we have moved as well. We became Belgacom, we integrated Proximus, and now we start looking at the customer, who is really changing at a very fast rate, and we also think that we need to adapt to that. And when we talk about digital transformation, many people talk about technology. Transformation is not about technology, transformation is about the customer. And we as a brand need to see and look at that customer, because the customer is living in a new world. We all know Google. Google is giving new experiences to customers. There is no more easy website than the Google website, even though the complexity that is behind is just tremendous. We also know as well that the commercial experience is changing. Amazon is setting new benchmarks. I could have taken Bol.com or Coolblue, but they are setting the bar on the world of our customer and where they are living in today. Even more disruptive is not only the experience side, but it's the business model side. Business models are being completely turned upside down. You know, Uber, Airbnb, but there are plenty of other companies turning businesses completely upside down. And it means that from our perspective, we're facing a new customer. The customer who knows what he wants and who knows where he has to look for information and check and benchmark information. We also know that that customer expects quality. I don't know when was the last time that the Google website didn't work. It's always working, it's always there. I can say you that for Proximus it's a challenge to always work. But we need to phase up to that, because that's the reality of our customers. Customers expect as well that when he has an issue, he finds a solution 24/7. He doesn't want to wait 8 o'clock in the morning to have the call center opening up, to having technicians coming 2 days later on. That's not what the customer wants. The customer wants an answer immediately. And last but not least, customer doesn't want to pay always anymore. I think you all been following the press over the last years. Price increases in telecom, which has been pretty regular, are not accepted anymore by customers. So we need to find new ways and new methods to talk to that customer. And that's the way we started actually our shift to digital strategy. A strategy we engaged upon a few years ago, but, and I always say that, with our customers at the heart. We don't do transformation for the purpose of transformation. We do transformation because the customer wants that and is living in another world. So that's really an important thing. And actually what we did, and it's engaging a bit further on the story of Karin, on what she's telling, and you will recognize some ideas and some perceptions, because I think we all think in a similar way, with our own background, of course. We worked around 6 big domains. We worked about the commercial domains. We had a big chunk of enablers. You have to know that telco is a pretty complex environment where you also have a network and so on. We talk about data. We didn't talk about data so far, but that's really one of the emerging things popping up. About corporate culture and culture, about our products and who we are and how we address to the customers. And last but not least, the ecosystems. And the first thing we engaged upon is being omni-channel. In the past, when you went to the website, you had no recommendations, you didn't know who the customer was, what he wants, and so far. Customers now expect that when you get on the website, you're pertinent and you have the right message adapted to him at that moment. And what we even go further in is that we don't only want it to be on the website, but we also want that when that customer gets into the shop, we automatically recognize that customer. And based on that, you already see the profile of the customer and the last interactions we had. Because as a telco operator, the last thing you want is that a customer who has a big technical issue that enters the shop and is really pissed off, that you have the funny sales guy coming over and telling about the last promotion. That's not the experience we want. At that moment, we need a caring salesperson who just listens to the customers and tries to find a solution for the issue. So omnichannel really at the heart, and digital is really one of the enabling components of that. We truly believe in being in the pocket of the customers, just like KBC. Mobile at the heart, mobile centric. We're not only a mobile telco operator, so we have the infrastructure, but also our applications are very relevant to the customer. I think we're around 1.2, 1.3 million app users. We just use the Proximus app to check their usage, their data, pay their bill, and so on. And just similar as what KBC is experiencing is usage will not be relevant anymore in a few years from now. usage will be unlimited for everybody at a certain point in time. So, same question is, how do you remain relevant for that customer? How do you keep that interaction with that customer? We think that by being at the heart at this moment is an advantage to look further for the future, and we'll come back later on the ecosystem discussion on how we see the way forward. Yeah, I have to talk about enablers. It's typically digital transformation. We had a lot of shit. Oh, you can't imagine. We just came out of an integration between Belgacom and Proximus, and it's already 6 or 7 years ago. And just last year, we pulled the plug of the IT ordering system of Proximus, the old Proximus, and moved to OneStack. We took a long time to move everything back together. We need to simplify, because digital means also fast time to market. You want to be fast, you want to iterate, you want to make a small product and building it up. You don't want to be in the RC6 release of 2022 because you have a great idea. So those things you need to make sure that the infrastructure behind is following, and you have the same agility in that environment. And so we took a lot of time to improve that ecosystem. I'm not going to tell you how we did it, but we invested a lot over the last years to have that flexibility. And now we're there, and we start seeing the advantages of it. But it took us a really long time, also linked to the history we're facing. We invested a lot in architecture because we think that for the future things we're doing, it's not only cleaning the shit of yesterday, it's also preparing the future for tomorrow. Also there, we need to think ahead. I think most of you are pretty in the marketing domain. Who's aware of everything happening in AdTech, MarTech environments? DMPs, CMS systems, content management. Guys, that's changing our world drastically. If you're all a marketeer in this room, you should look at that. Your job tomorrow will not be your job of today. Those tools are bringing new things, new ways, new experiences, but you really need to think ahead, because that world is moving that fast, and players, the big players like Google, Salesforce, are going all directions, and it's really something you need to keep ahead of, because it's changing, and it's going to change our job of tomorrow and the way we interact with the customers. So really an important thing. One of the things we have been looking at as well is the Data Alliance. The Data Alliance, what is it? Well, Proximus and other partners, a lot of media partners, are sitting on a lot of pile of data. We know a lot about customers, what they do, what they like, where they are, and so on. Of course, with consent, let's be clear on that. But it's opening a whole new ecosystem of how you want to interact with that customer, and how to want to advertise in ecosystem, and how can we use all the data we have with all the partners to reuse it on all the display networks. The Data Alliance is that philosophy. So if we work together, we can be even more relevant to the customer and be even more 360 towards the communication of our customer. So that's really changing, and that's a transformation of ways of business models are being thought of and opportunities we see. The cultural thing. Proximus, I don't have to say, has a big legacy on culture. We have the old Belgacom, we still have what we call the statutairen, and don't have a big vooroordeel against statutairen, because when you walk in the towers, you don't see the difference between a statutairen and a contractual, but there is a legacy culture that is generally present in Proximus, and that's really one of the big things we need to work on, is to explain every day why that world is changing. My few slides in the beginning, starting with the customer, that's really our day-to-day job, to each time explain why we engage in the digital transformation. Why do we want other products? Why are we investing in architecture? Why are we talking about AdTech, MarTech, and so on and so on? A bit harder, why do we have to search for new people and let go older people? All those things we need to explain and continue to explain them. And also new working methodologies. We talk about Agile, we talk a lot about Agile, and I'm pretty proud of the journey we're bringing on it. It's a buzzword, yes, but it helped us, and it helps us moving forward. I'm not a big believer in doing Agile for the purpose of doing Agile. But what we do see is in the domains we've entered it that are really relevant to it, it really brings a lot, and it moved us farther, and it helped us get going faster. in our products, innovating digital in the products, we did it through content. The Pix platform, you've probably read it in the press some months ago, is that if you want to be relevant at the heart, it's good to have fancy functionalities like we have in the app, like KBC is deploying through their ecosystem, but actually the most emotional we have around us is entertainment. It's TV content, it's on-demand content. And by the Pix platform, we truly believe that we can be very close to our customers because content is something that is emotionally engaging. And we believe that that's also transformation and digital by being at the heart of those customers, by bringing those new products. And we also believe that the world of content and entertainment is moving that fast that you need to be present with the relevant content at the relevant moment. And some players do it greatly, like Netflix, and that's also why we believe that we need to have them on our platform, which we have. And by using all that information, again, we try to be more relevant for the customer. So I truly believe that working on those 6 building blocks makes us, for the customers, even more relevant. And we try to engage with them in the future that is coming, but that is being built today. And I can only invite you to have a look at it and have a look at that customer, at yourself and the way you operate and how you can take that along in the future. So that was a bit my story on how we did digital transformation, how we see the customer in that digital transformation and the different building blocks we've been building on. So thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you, Geert, and you gave that wake-up call so efficiently that there's some time open for questions. So, does somebody has questions for Geert? Feel free. Who wants to break the ice? I have a nasty question. May I? Yeah. We didn't prepare, guys. We didn't prepare. But this data alliance thing is an interesting one. And then you see DPG Media, who is basically also going into, say, we have our own brand studio and we have our own media tools. And of course, then you have the agencies and the Googles that you talk about. This becomes very much a matrix where everybody is kind of a colleague and a competitor, or a partner and a competitor. Who will win that battle, Geert?
Well, I cannot tell you who will win. At least we have to try it. I think you see it in all environments, and it's a key thing on ecosystems. It was during the CDO event that there was a talk where they said, look, the next waves of transformation is about ecosystem thinking, is about what do our platforms can build bridges to other platforms. How can we as a company link up with other media partners and try to build something together? And will it work? I don't know. Who will win? I don't know. But ecosystem thinking is really a way forward on looking at the digital environment and how the world is changing around us. We see it in the big industry players, we see it like Google partnering up for certain things with Salesforce, and you see it at all those levels. So I think we have to do it, we have to engage in that. And it's difficult to predict on how it will come, because you always see around the table that everybody has his own interest as well in the discussions. But already the fact that those discussions are taking place is already a big shift versus 2 to 3 years ago, where Proximus was just seen as the network provider where the broadcasters could share their content on. Discussions are now much further and in depth. So I cannot answer, but it's an interesting evolution.
We are all very curious, I think. I think the consumer will help to decide and time will tell, and I think also all the advertisers will share. I have a question over there. I will pass the mic. Or could you come close? Thank you so much.
Hi, Geert. I was wondering, what's in the journey, what's one thing you would have done differently, looking back?
Right, there are different things that I would have done differently, but the one I most underestimated was the people. Transformation in the first sense is about people, and the shift to digital as a global group strategy has only been set a year and a half ago. Even though we've engaged in the digital transformation for a few years, I think we should have done that 5 or 6 or 7 years ago. I think we're catching up, but when I look at the banks, KBC for instance, they're still a few years ahead. And we should have engaged that people way of thinking and much more earlier. So that's for me, you cannot be fast enough to engage those people.
Thank you very much, Geert. May I have another big applause for you? Now, the need for digital transformation and trying to build your brand in that way is not only dictated by the consumer and how he evolves in his consumption. It's also dictated sometimes by market regulation. So if we look at the car industry, look at ourselves, the time we spent in traffic jams. Diesel is banned from cities more and more. City centers become pedestrian. So the question is then, how do you translate that kind of market challenge into a marketing opportunity? And that's what we can learn by D'Ieteren. And sometimes we forget, but we can be proud of D'Ieteren in Belgium because those guys have 200 years of history of working automobile. So I'm very curious how they look at the future. So thank you very much, José, to explain that for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I have this one.
Ah, yes.
I talk a lot, I don't need 2 microphones. Wow. Thank you, Alex, for the introduction. I hope this is working. It works. Yes, it is a kind of a challenge to be here in a Congress which is focusing on humanity and purpose, and at the same time representing an industry that is quite a lot finger pointed for being the bad guy in the room. Traffic jams, global warming, and all of the same. Let's say that even if this is a big challenge, this is a challenge we need to take because things are moving on. But before we get into looking into how mobility is going to be in the future, I would like to take you a little bit back in history. Alex just said D'Ieteren is a family-owned company since 200 years and even more. And actually, we belong to a very specific club of companies that is called the Enochians. I don't know if you know the Enochians. It's a very small number of companies in the world that have been created more than 200 years ago and that are still today run by the family that founded the companies. And we have 2 companies in Belgium, D'Ieteren and the group Polé. Most of them probably don't know them, but they are part of this club. This to create a little bit of history back. I will ask you to go back like at the beginning of the 19th century when this guy was the big bad boy in the streets. Napoleon Bonaparte was ruling the world, fighting on every single battlefield in Europe. And when you are at war, what you need is actually bringing and traveling with your troops. You need guns and you need wheels to bring all these people and all this ammunition from one battlefield to the other. And a young boy of 20 years old called Jean-Joseph D'Ieteren has the idea to start developing a business around building wheels. Well, it's a good idea because by the time Belgium is becoming the country we know, in 1830, he has been bringing his business into the carriages, building wheels, building carriages. And actually the D'Ieteren Group through the 19th century is going to develop a very professional and well-known reputation around carriages. After Jean-Joseph, his son Alexandre, Alfred and Émile, grandsons, are going to perpetuate this tradition. Okay, so far for the carriage story. Then something is going to happen. And no, it's not the iPhone, it's not Steve Jobs that invented the first industrial revolution and disruption word, but actually Mr. Daimler is inventing and Mr. Peugeot are inventing the combustion engine, and they are going to transform a century of powered by animals sector into automobiles. The D'Ieteren Group is going at that time to change and actually to switch their business model. They are going to start building cars, and actually not really building cars but making the body making of those cars. What is body making? Carrosserie in French is actually the fact that they are buying the chassis of the cars and they are going to build, let's say, the body on it. And they are pretty good in doing that. At the beginning of the 20th century, this is a picture of the well-known Rue du Mail headquarters. They are one of the leading brands in Belgium, and they are very good in the transformation and in the selling of those cars. But then again, disruption. What a nice world is coming to our world. Lucien D'Ieteren is the 4th generation in the D'Ieteren family, and is going to have to face the 1931 crisis. You know, we had economical crisis and political crisis that is striking through Europe, and is going to start moving into the import of cars. So, because the cars that we built at that time in Europe are very expensive, is going just to move on and say we are going to import cars from the USA. Studebaker is a brand that nobody knows today, but that was well infamous at that moment, and also Auburn and Pierce Arrow are going to be imported. We have still a World War II that is in between, but by the years we are seeing that the family is growing up and building a plant that you probably don't recognize. This is the Forest plant, which is today still in use, and building the electric Audi e-tron in between. They build a plant and they start to sign a contract with the Volkswagen Group. This is 70 years ago, and actually the D'Ieteren Group is going to start building up the Beetle, iconic car, and also the Porsche 356, which is well known to be the car that James Dean was driving when he died, unfortunately. Oh yes, something very funny, it's not Kim Kardashian and Instagram that invented content marketing and storytelling. It's not Pierre D'Ieteren as well. But as you may appreciate, Pierre D'Ieteren was really one of the first marketeers in the D'Ieteren family. And he started to think about, this car is a real good car. What can I bring to my clients in terms of communication and marketing to let them know that the Beetle is really strong? Well, I'm going to travel through Africa, 25,000 kilometers. I'm going to write a book, take pictures, and display all my story into a book that I will share in the different point of sales we have. This is actually content marketing without any digital device, but we see that a lot of things have been coming from the past into the present. Fast forward, and I stop there with my history of the family, but I think it's important to know where we are coming from to see where we are going to. Roland D'Ieteren takes the lead of the company when he's only 22 years old as a CEO. Pierre D'Ieteren crashed in an accident, and he's going to bring the D'Ieteren family into the international world. He's going to make some very important acquisitions. He buys the Avis Europe group that has been resold in between. He's going to acquire Belron, which is known by being Carglass in our market, still part of the D'Ieteren group. And at the end of his mandate, he decides together with his son to buy something that is a little bit out of scope with the car industry, which is called Moleskine, the well-known notebooks. And he's also going to extend our activities with licensing the import of other brands like Seat, Skoda, Yamaha, Bentley, and luxury brands like Lamborghini and Bugatti. Today, the D'Ieteren Auto is the leading brand in the market, with brands that you all are familiar with. We are number one in the market with a 21% market share. There are some changes in the auto industry. You have probably heard that two groups, PSA and FCA, are merging. So this could change as from next year. We have on the Belgian roads 1.2 million cars, and this is interesting, and I'm connecting to what Geert just told a few minutes ago. Those cars are not connecting to a data ecosystem yet, but if we connect them, we have a large database of people that we can use to better serve them. On a yearly basis, we are selling around 125,000 cars. And our company, and when I say the company is not the group, is D'Ieteren Auto, so the automotive group without Belron and Moleskine, is generating a 3.3 billion euros turnover, and we are employing a little bit more than 2,000 employees in Belgium at the moment. So it sounds like a very long introduction about the history of a group, but now if I'm there is to look into the future and to try to give you a little bit of insight of the challenge the automotive industry may have. And actually things are moving very, very fast. Yes, the flying drones and flying cars are a few words about this. There is a need for mobility in the market and especially in the Belgian market. We have some specific elements in Belgium that we have to be aware of. The first thing, you see it on the graph here, actually the Belgian population is living largely outside of cities. And because of this, there is a huge demand for commuting, because the cities are concentrating most of our work and our jobs, especially in the service industry. You see that we are leading in Europe by the number of people that decided to leave Brussels, Ghent and Antwerp to go on the countryside, but this comes with a tag price. And also a second element which is extremely important to understand is that despite what we may have in our heads, the demand for mobility is not decreasing, it's increasing. Of course, there is a trend over the last 30 years, and there is a change in the way people are moving. Actually, the way we move is much more based on shared economy. So by 2030, 70% of the mobility will still be based on automotive, but we will see public transportation and also shared mobility becoming more and more popular, but you see that we still need cars in the streets to be able to move around. We have identified 4 major trends that are applicable to the automotive sector. Actually, the first one is very well known, is decarbonification. It's not only the electric car, but also the other energy sources that could come in the future to reduce our global warming and footprint when it comes to environment. A second major trend is the connectivity of our cars. The cars that we are selling today, our brands and our competition brands, are fully connected and are becoming more and more connected. I'm going to give a few insights on that. Because of this connectivity and the technology that comes within, we are going to shift into autonomous driving, and it's not only about the people driving their Tesla models and making funny YouTube videos about it. It's really a strong purpose and a strong trigger for new businesses. And last but not least, we see a sharing economy that is surging. Not only we are shifting from ownership of cars into use of cars, and this comes with the digitalization and also data sharing, which is at the center. And we want, as D'Ieteren, to be in the center of this game. We have a strategy that I will develop in a few slides regarding this. whatever the scenario you take, this is a study that has been made by Roland Berger that we have been giving into, by 2030 there will be a shift. Even in the more conservative wave and line, there will be a shift to shared mobility and to new ways of moving around cities and areas outside of the cities. Of course, I talk about electricity. Let us be clear, the leading area in the world will become, and is already, China. So we have to focus on what's happening there. You see on those figures that in 2 years from now, China will produce over 6 million cars that are powered by electricity, and the figures are going to jump up. The Volkswagen Group has announced a major investment of 60 billion euros to follow on the trends to produce electricity, and I'm looking to my colleagues from Renault. I do believe that they are all, and we are all, in the same trend setting. A second element which is very clear here is that fossil fuels are going to stay for a while. We cannot shift to 100% electricity powered vehicles. And also hybrid vehicles are still a very valid solution for people that need to travel, instead of going full-fledged for full electrical vehicles. This is the media mix, or the product mix that we see in a few years. I'm going to try to shift to the last part of my presentation with 3 examples. Data connectivity means less accidents. That's number one we need to have in mind, because the cars are going to connect with infrastructure. In Brussels, we know that we have some problems with our tunnels at times, and this will help drivers, of course, to be safe. A second element, and I'm going to talk not about your model, Alex, but still in a certain way, automotive and autonomous cars, it's also a way to develop new services around, for instance, elderly people that cannot access to their private car anymore because they have physical disabilities, not good seeing what's on the road. Imagine a world when you can go and pick your grandmother and bring your grandmother for the Sunday tart and coffee afternoon. That's a new way of creating new services. Last but not least, Proximus is a strong believer of focusing on the 5G environment. Smart cities are going to help sharing economy and also sharing mobility in a certain way. You see here our POPI proposal, where we are offering shared scooters, electrical scooters, and also shared cars through that sharing principle. Let's have a very short look to finalize with what our strategy is actually as D'Ieteren. We have been in the import of cars and the making of cars since 2 centuries, but today we make a shift. We are going and we want to become a leading company in the mobility, and this is not a slide share. We have been working on that over the last 2 years. We want to have, and this is our vision statement, to improve the social life of our citizens through a sustainable, fluent, and also an accessible mobility service provider. What does it mean? It means that today we are here as being number 1 in market share, and by 2030 we pretend to be there, not in market share anymore, but our PPI will be the number of kilometers that are driven in the country. And this is a paradigm shift that is moving us out of the car industry and putting us completely in the mobility business. I will go very quickly on that. We have, of course, developed a strategy, but basically we are based ourselves on 3 elements. We will adapt our core business, which is actually selling and retailing cars. This is something we are working on, and we are extending our customer centricity, our services around that level, and there is, yes, some challenge to meet the minimal standards we are focusing on. We are going to expand our business outside of the car import and manufacturing and repairing. For instance, we launched EDI, our electrical services for electrical cars, that are not doing anything else than providing electric services and even electric production facilities for electric cars users. And last but not least, and this is the last slide, we develop also a startup culture within D'Ieteren, which is, as you know, a kind of ministry of the car. We have been building up Labbox, which is our startup studio, and Labbox has designed several let's say businesses around a much more agile way of thinking. I already talked about Poppy, which is our sharing car platform, but probably a lot of you don't know Lizzie yet. Lizzie is also sustainable. They are leasing fully online second-hand used cars. Up to now, leasing was only about new cars. Lizzie is starting to resell and to lease actually to professionals in the B2B environment used cars. Us is our, let's say, premium service, a little bit like an Uber Black approach with exclusive premium services for high-end and high-demanded private drivers users. And we also developed some industrial autonomous, fully electric and fully autonomous transportation systems that are already driving in Erasmus, for instance, for this car, which is located into the Hush startup. Last but not least, MyMove is a service fully online that allows companies to think and to help their employees to get a more clean and a more sustainable mobility budget in a B2B environment. A few words about Skipper. Skipper is integrated into platforms like the bank platforms. It's a platform that helps to plan, book and pay mobility services. All mobility services in one application, whether it is public transport, whether it is shared cars, whether it is also other type of services like Jump or Uber bikes if you want, and also the usual suspects, the Lane, STIP and the Belgian Rail. Last but not least, let's have a look into the future. You see the drone a few minutes ago from Amazon for transportation of goods, but by 2035, Porsche has decided, and they just signed a few weeks ago, they signed an agreement with Boeing to build up the first flying electric car. This sounds like the next Star Wars movie, and it could be. But I can tell you something, there is already a prototype which is already existing and what is flying. It doesn't bring people with it, but they are really, really serious about that. The reason is very simple. Transport up to now was two-dimensional. We are going to the third dimension and going to make people fly in big cities where the number of traffic jams will most probably increase a little bit. I finish with this sentence of Mahatma Gandhi, the future depends on what you do today, and that's exactly what we pretend within D'Ieteren. Thank you very much for your attention.
Very impressive how adaptive D'Ieteren is, and probably will be keep being. Now, I don't know how long that Geert, Karen and José will stay here so you can ask questions, but if I want to wrap up what I've seen here, how do you build your brand in a meaningful way in this digital world? First, I would say, bring customer and consumer user experience at the heart of your brand building. Secondly, make sure you do the right consumer-oriented digital transformation in your organization. And last, I would say, regarding market trends, make sure you're proactive, adaptive to what's happening. Because if you're not proactive, you will be too late. Have a great lunch, guys. Thank you for joining.